Hi, everybody. It's Friday. Welcome to the Browns prediction show on Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the Big and Furry Bovine. We got a full cast of characters here. We got Tony and Brian, Carl Mooks, better known as Bronk around these parts, and Derek Frisbee from DF Sports. We're here to talk about the Browns against the Chargers. Every week, I kind of go about this in a slightly different way. And I want to go at this away from Baker Mayfield because I'm tired. I did a show yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, check it out on YouTube. It's a 20-minute thing, and I don't want to get into it anymore. However, I do have a different perspective on how we can look at this Chargers game, and it starts by really taking a look at who these Chargers actually are. And, it's easy to get, how should we say, carried away. The last two games, they've beaten two good football teams. And so the tendency is to say, well, this team, we're going to be in way over our heads against this team because we've got a quarterback situation. We've got a backup left tackle now who's undergoing surgery. So we have a one-legged left tackle and a backup two backups who would get eaten alive by Joey Bosa. There's that way of looking at it. Or there's looking at this from a more universal perspective. Who are the players that make the Chargers, and what is their modus operandi on the field? For one thing, this is definitely a pass-first offense. Now, I don't mean to be, I'm not here to criticize them. This is just what they are. They're not a great rushing team. I've got this problem with my mouse here. Maybe it's because of my age, and this is what happens. When the prostate starts to go, so does your mouse. Everything I'm clicking on is like disappearing. I've never had this happen before. I feel like I'm, like a magician or something, and not in a good kind of way. But I will refine this page because it is essential that we do this the right way. The Chargers are a team that statistically, and that's where I'm going right now, sorry, has a quarterback completing 68.9% of his passes for 1,178 yards. That's 302 yards per game and 100.1 rating. Justin Herbert is the real deal. And look, I'd be lying to you. I'd love to have a quarterback who's 6'4". I would love to have a guy who could see better over the line than Baker Mayfield. I mean, if we had our druthers, we could all build our own favorite quarterback. They come in many different shapes and sizes. Justin Herbert is a guy who seems to be built for the pro game. On the rushing side, they have Austin Eckler. He is their all-purpose back. I say that because he's averaging 5.7 yards per carry, but it's virtually all set up by the passing game. He has a long run of 20, so he's averaging 70 yards per game. All right? However, he also has caught 18 passes for an additional 141 yards. So he's an all-purpose back. Behind him, there really is nothing. They've rushed for a total of 430 yards, 283 of it from Eckler. Their number two running back has 24 attempts and 60 carries, and that's Larry Roundtree. So this team is not a run-first kind of dominate the line of scrimmage kind of team. This is a team that notoriously speeds up its offense, slows down and speeds up, and especially on third and fourth down, really rushes to the line of scrimmage to make defenses very uncomfortable. They have a very high percentage, 4 out of 5, of fourth down conversions, many of which were in the fourth and 5 range, but they rush to the line, and before anyone can make any adjustments, they get the snap off. And, this is what they do. With that said, from a defensive perspective, what they are is a one-man rushing unit. Joey Bosa having 2.5 sacks this year, but really getting a lot of outside pressure. Jerry Tillery, an inside lineman, has 1.5. And then Kaiser White, the linebacker, has 1 sack. And then 2 guys with 0.5, half a sack. They also have a linebacker with 2 sacks, who is strictly on a blitzing front, Kyler Fackrell, who has really not played very much. But he comes in a situation where passing and blitzing falls into the equation. They've only gotten 9 sacks. Put that in perspective. That's how many sacks the Browns had against the Bears. So this is not like a defensive line for all the talk about Joey Bosa, who's really a fine player. This is not a team that has done all that well in stopping the run. And we take a look at their team statistics, and it tells an interesting story. They average 23.8 points a game, and they give up 18.5. They've given up 11 touchdowns, or they've gotten 11 touchdowns, given up 8. So they're on the right side of the curve here. But rushing first downs, they've given up 31 and gotten 27 themselves. Passing first downs, they've held opponents to 44. Passing first downs, gotten 62 of them themselves. All right. Their third down efficiency is blistering at 49.09%. So this is a team that can verticalize you, and they have the weapons and the receiving core to do just that. But they average giving up 44% third down efficiency. What I can tell you about this team is that their rushing attempts per game, 104. Their rushing yards, 430, and average 4 yards per rush. They rush for 107 yards per game. And I will tell you this, their last 2 wins are the things that everyone's talking about, but the first 2 games, nobody's talking about. And they barely got by the Washington football team in week 1. And again, Austin Eckler only averaged 3.8 yards per carry against the Washington football team. And this is their first game of the year, and they've gotten better since then. But they gave up 126 yards rushing to the Washington football team. Now, they played the Chiefs and beat the Chiefs, which is something that we were not able to do. Eckler had 11 carries, average 5 yards a carry. But again, it's Herbert doing the heavy lifting with a 125 quarterback rating, completing 26 out of 38 passes against the Chiefs. But let me ask you this. Are the Chiefs really as good as everyone has made them out to be? They've not played up to their hopes and aspirations. When you're 1-2 on the season, after that game, they're 2-2 now. That's not where they would want to be right now. The interesting thing, though, is they lost 30-24 to the Chargers, but they gained 186 yards on the ground against this Chargers defense. So already 126 to the Washington football team, 186 to Kansas City, and their next big win was, of course, against the Raiders. And do we really know how good the Raiders are? In this particular game, Herbert threw for 222 yards, and Eckler ran wild on Vegas, 117 yards and 15 carries, had a huge game. And if you take a look at the rushing, the Raiders only got 48 yards rushing. And that's because Josh Jacobs only gained 40 yards in the game. That's it, man. So that's how they stopped the Raiders. Now, am I afraid of the Raiders' running game? Not really, but they have to have it for Derek Carr to be effective. And in this game, Derek Carr against the Chargers threw a pick and only had an 84 quarterback rating. Herbert at a 107.6. So, and then you look at their other game, which is against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys beat the Chargers, and Prescott was efficient as hell, 23 of 27, all right? But Dallas rushed for 198 yards against them. So in 3 of their 4 games, with the Raiders being the outlier, 2 teams ran for over 180 yards against them, and the Washington football team, that as far as I know doesn't even have a running back, got 126 yards against them. So I look at this overall and I say, who are the Chargers? Well, if you judge them in 3 out of 4 weeks, they can't stop the run for shit. And they looked really fast and really quick off the ball in their last win, and they really beat up on the Raiders. And we all wondered, really, are the Raiders a 3-0 team? And I don't think so. I don't think that they're that good. Anything I'm saying ringing a bell with you guys?
This should definitely be a big game for Chubb and Hunt, especially given the whole Baker situation and his injury that we're just now finding out about. It should be a game where they can just pound the rock and hopefully not have to count too much in the pass game. But my thing is if the Browns defense comes out and plays like they played the last few weeks, that's what they're going to need to do. But if the Chargers can put up points fairly quick like they've been doing, it's going to be hard for the Browns to stick to the run game if they're trying to play catch up. Last week we couldn't contain drives, and we couldn't put up points, and we can't do that this game.
Yeah, it's and again, I'm going back to looking at some statistics here. I'm not really sold. I mean, what's the comment that's on your screen right now is that they're giving up their running game so that Herbert can just crush people. It's not like Herbert hasn't been sacked. He can be had back there.
Rookie left tackle.
Yeah,
Slater.
Yeah, I mean, I watched them play. I think he's a fine young quarterback, but if the Browns can generate pressure from their front four, that changes a lot of things in this game. If Herbert is as comfortable as quarterbacks were in the first 2 weeks against the Cleveland Browns, then we have a major problem on our hands. I look at this game differently because I've taken the Baker Mayfield thing out of the equation because it is what it is. The Hubbard story doesn't surprise me. Anyone with a tricep injury who is being allowed to practice and then they just didn't play him, obviously he's unable to play the position. And honestly, I don't think Jedrick Wills should be playing. I don't think that he's going to be physically capable to really be able to move his feet to be able to prevent a bravado outside rush. I think that's just going to be a real problem for us. And we have to look at this instead of Baker Mayfield, which is the focus of this team is way too much on him and OBJ. And we have to start looking at the other stuff, which is how are we going to get the ball out of Baker's hands cleanly? How are we going to get people open over the middle of the field and not have to rely on him spending a long time in the pocket? And that part of that is really getting our running game cranked up. And it's also, we're going to have to see how accurately he can throw the ball but it's to force them into press coverages periodically. If I were the Cleveland Browns, I'll tell you right now what I would do. I would come out in a hurry up offense. Because if you don't win the toss and and they end up giving you the ball first, I would come out at full speed, no huddle, come right at them. And the reason is they're going to be on the field and they're looking for a big running team. And if they're going to put their run first defense on the field, I ain't going to let them motherfuckers get them off the field. And that means that Baker has to show in the beginning of the game whether he has the ability to throw accurately or not. This is not for me to guess or to judge. I'm not at practice. I can't tell you what caused the horrible performance he had last week. But he's your quarterback, and you're going to the dance or not going to the dance with him.
Yep.
He's what you got.
That's the thing against the Bears. He was injured and he was able to hit guys. He missed some throws in that game, but it wasn't like the Vikings game where he was just blatantly missing guys. So, I mean, it's not so much that he can't play with the injury, in my opinion, because I think we've seen that. It's just, is it going to be this hit or miss thing all year? And what version of Baker is going to show up from the health standpoint in this game?
Well, again, and Caption Fierce, they're going to be people chipping Joey Bosa. But believe me, if Jedrick Wills is in there and has a sprained ankle that he can't move on, and Bosa just runs around him to the outside, I don't know. I mean, you're going to have a running back, somebody in the backfield set up to chip on him. Yeah, Bronk.
The thing about Bosa is that he's a lot like Myles Garrett. He'll have good games, and he'll have games where he's like vacationing in the Bahamas. What you want to do with Bosa is run the ball right around by him and make him be a run defender, and you get your yards that way. And can we stop? If we win the toss, can we stop deferring? I think deferring does not suit this team at all. We want to go out with the ball first every single time and make their defense get tired out. Yep. When we deferred last week, we almost blew the whole game. So,
where we agree,
run the ball against Bosa.
That's a staple of the Stefanski, Zimmer, Parcells coaching, though. You're never going to not defer.
Yeah, I mean, it's that seems to be the automatic thing to go to.
I know it's analytics, and I know that sometimes there's a 55-45% advantage to deferring and getting the ball in the second half and trying to get that double position at the end of the first half and at the beginning of the second half. But for this team, it does not fucking suit us. Can we just get the ball first and drive and get 7 minutes off the clock? Because I think we could do that against virtually every defense except for possibly the Ravens that we play this season.
Well, and here's the other thing about tiring out the opposition, and specifically Joey Bosa. If you take the ball in a hurry-up offense and he's stuck on the field and they don't know whether you're going to run or pass and you have a series of fast plays, you start draining his battery early. And that is what the Browns need to do, I think, is to assert themselves in that way. And also the play calling. I mean, the scripted 25 plays have to be to the Baker Mayfield that we have. Not the Baker Mayfield who started out in week 1, but the Baker Mayfield we have with the harness on. Everything has to be taken into account. There was way too much downfield looking in the last 2 weeks, and that has to be stripped down. We've got to have clear plays that are called that have checkdowns so that he's protected, that he can get rid of the ball quickly. And the only way you throw deep balls is if you get them to a point where we're successfully running the ball against them and wearing them down, that they have to bring their guys up into more, to get their cornerbacks or their safeties into the backfield to get numbers against our running game. Then you take a shot down the field at OBJ or Schwartz or somebody with speed and you go at it that way.
And I'm
we'll
glad
know
you
very quickly whether they're gonna load up the box with eight people. We'll know real quickly. So then we've got to be ready for that with quick slants and tight end plays and swing passes and screen passes and shit. Come on, I mean, if you know how to tire Bosa out, I know how to tire Bosa out. You think Stefanski should figure it out too? I mean, I'm not too worried about this.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Defense.
Moo, I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought that up because just rewatching some of the game highlights and stuff, it seemed like that was the difference why Baker was able to play, comparable in the Bears game, because a lot of times there was over the middle stuff and there was more of the mid to closer range throws that he could make. The Vikings game, there was no mid-range passing, there was no check downs, or if there were, he didn't want to throw them, and they were just trying to hit that deep ball. So they have to open up the pass game in that range to get him comfortable, to trust himself, because that's the first thing. He's got to hit some of these throws first. So in
Early.
in his head, he's thinking, okay, I'm good. I can make these throws.
That's right. And for him, he's a rhythm quarterback. You saw him complete, 20 passes in a row or whatever the hell it was.
Another thing quickly, I think they got to get him in shotgun. I think this passing from under center hurts him because as a shorter quarterback, it's harder for him to drop back and try to find lanes versus, hey, I'm going to be in shotgun. I could sit back there and shift around.
That gives away pass, and our running game is the strongest part of our offense.
Then they're going to have to evolve that because you can't change Baker's height, and now you can't really change this injury. So those are just things they're going to have to
play. Action pass is only vital if your running game is really a threat against who you're playing. So, I mean, in an opening drive where you're playing a hurry-up offense, you're trying to throw them off balance by not knowing what's coming at them, and they're going full bore after the run, the pass, whatever you throw at them, and it's just hopefully a long possession that helps wear them down. It also gets you used to the stadium and to the noise in the stadium and brings the crowd down a little bit.
Oh, I think there'll be a lot of Browns fans there. If you looked at that game last Sunday, there were Raiders fans all over the place. And yeah, I know they were in Los Angeles and Oakland, but there's plenty of Browns fans in the Los Angeles area too. It's not like it's...
There's a lot of them traveling too.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Browns Twitter is traveling too.
Yeah, I can't imagine SoFi Stadium being that intimidating. It's fucking California after all.
The Chargers really lost their fans when they moved from San Diego.
Correct.
Yeah, and they're saying SoFi Stadium is not yet a big home field advantage, but
Rams.
It is for the Rams.
Well, you know what it looks like too? It looks like it's a slower track. It doesn't look like it's one of these turfs where it really benefits explosive wide receivers or explosive skilled guys. I mean, if you put the Cardinals on the stadium in Phoenix, they look faster than the Chargers look in SoFi. So I think we got help with that too.
Yeah, one of that is Kyler Murray. So when you see Kyler Murray actually running in person, he's like a 20-year-old Omar Vizquel.
Yeah, he's like 4'3". Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Herbert can be hit. We know Herbert can be hit. We said he could be hit. So he's going to get hit.
And Herbert can take off on you, too. He's kind of like Burrow, where he's sneaky.
And here's a good question. Would you rather have Baker outscore Herbert or defense shutting him down? I don't think you want to get into a game where you're trying to outscore a team on its home field against a young quarterback who has outside speed and can hurt you that way. You're hoping that the defense is going to live up to what it's done more recently and holds them within a reasonable point range. But I don't see Baker is the focus of too many goddamn people. I'm telling you, the problem for Baker, and I said it yesterday, I'm not going to go over the ground too many times, is that he has an offensive line where Treader is playing hurt already, Conklin is playing hurt already, and Jedrick Wills is on one leg already.
Like, what the fuck do you expect from the kid?
So, I mean, I look at Baker Mayfield and I say he can only be as good as the offensive line in front of him, because that's what brings us our running game. That's what gives him time to get rid of the ball. He's got to be smart about making quick reads, yes, but the play calling also has to put him in a position where he knows, and it's gone over with him, look, we're trying to keep you for the entire season. The biggest threat about this injury, people are, there's all kinds of speculation all over, people just pretending that they know this shit. The bottom line is that you could go on with a tear in your labrum and in your non-throwing arm, and depending on how symptomatic and how much you need it, you're going to have to end up having surgery on it. The real problem for Baker Mayfield is that's his blind side. And what you're going to look at with a left tackle situation that is developing in Cleveland is you put him back and he has to sit in the pocket and wait for somebody to get open. And let's be honest, our fastest wide receivers are a guy who he's never had chemistry with in OBJ, and Schwartz, who can only run in a straight line and appears to be afraid to run over the middle of the field. I mean, if you think that you're going to beat them downfield with Rashard Higgins and a bunch of and Donovan Peoples-Jones and a bunch of tight ends, that's not going to stretch the field. So Baker's, if he's back there and he looks and nobody's open, in that blink of an eye, he gets hammered from his blind side. That partial tear becomes a complete or full tear. And
I think
Yep.
I think that might be a big reason for his happy feet that we saw was he I think in the back of his head, he's just thinking left side, because repeatedly in the game previous, you saw Wills just, it almost looked like he didn't even try on a few plays. He was getting blown by so bad. So, I mean, it's hard to really blame Baker for, I don't want to say being afraid, but I guess always being aware of that left side. But that's just the reality. If Wills is going to be in the game and he's not healthy, that's something Baker's got to worry about.
And you start out the scripted plays, and all of the plays that you're choosing from have to have options to get your quarterback. Look, the Browns beat good football team, and I say the Vikings are a decent football team, but they beat them with a running game, and the way they played against the Chiefs was efficiently throwing the ball short midfield. They've beaten other teams with screen passes. Baker's, 74% complete or 82% completion rate after 2 weeks. That's him playing within himself. And we can't fall prey to the media's comparing him to gunslingers and, to guys who are of a different physical status than he is. He's got to play like he plays within the system that he has.
They're going to try to hit him. They're going to, even after plays, they're going to try to get him on that shoulder. So that's also something that the coaching staff needs to account for. Maybe, try to roll him right more. I know he's known for being predictable to roll right, but you can't have him taking these late hits. Because, we know how the refs are for the Browns. They're probably not going to call it, but you best believe Joey, whoever else, is going to be pushing him. They're going to be throwing him down. They're going to try to fully tear that. And there's nothing stopping it. You're going to play the game of football. It's going to happen, but they're going to have to design around that.
Well, there are quarterbacks in football, and Tom Brady being, of course, the one who, but could he do it in Tampa? It's like, I think he could do it in any system because he's a quick study and he has extremely fast processing skills. But you take a look at the majority of quarterbacks who are in the NFL, and I know the NFL is starved for marketing appeal in quarterbacks. And if you watch the CBS promos, when they say it's this team against this team and they show the two heads of the quarterbacks, it's like, what about the rest of the fucking team? But that's where the attention is all fed into, is if you have a big name quarterback. So with Buffalo Bills got Josh Allen, you see, and that's a big deal.
Especially when you're the number one overall pick, that also
And so you're maybe 2-2, but you got Patrick Mahomes. And I'll tell you something. All the people who criticize Baker Mayfield, basically one finger on Seattle's quarterback, one finger on Russell Wilson, and he looked like he'd never thrown a football before. He looked like dog shit. And they had to pull him out of the game and put Geno Smith in. I didn't even know fucking Geno Smith was still in the league. I thought they buried him in New York.
Looked good.
With Jimmy Hoffa.
No, he only looked good in comparison to Russell Wilson, who looked terrible. And no, the Seahawks are not good this year. And he is not one of those Tom Brady-esque quarterbacks. Most teams in the league have to live with who they get and who they draft, and they have to build a scheme and a system around that guy. And that's what it is with Baker, as it is for virtually every other quarterback that we're going to be facing, and every team we're going to be facing. So get off the Baker kick and the focus on just being him. That's horseshit. That's what a child does. I mean, there are a lot of people out on the field.
And the fact that they're acting like he has sucked this whole season. His first 2 games, he had the highest completion percentage in the entire NFL. It's not like he's just been horrible all year. I heard somebody today say, oh, shoot, I forget who it was, but they were talking about redrafting 2018, the same stuff all over again. Oh, I'd rather have Sam Darnold. Are you kidding me? After 2 games with a torn labrum in his shoulder, you're going to tell me that 4 years goes down the drain? Are you retarded? And I'm sorry to say that, but you are retarded if you believe that.
Wow.
Well, I mean, again, the issue about a tear like that is that if it's repaired, and again, I'll explain it real quick. It can't heal completely on its own, because the tendon, as it does grow back very slowly, will grow unevenly. So instead of having one solid tendon that is of durable width and strength, you end up with a weak spot in the tendon, which is likely to tear again. That's why you need arthroscopic surgery after the season. 100% chance that Baker Mayfield goes under the knife in the offseason. 100% chance. Now, at the same time, right now, that injury will give him, if he goes like this and he goes behind his back with his left arm, his non-throwing arm, that's why he's got a harness on to prevent it going in the directions that will aggravate that. And they got pain management that they're feeding him as well. That's how it works. So again, any way you look at this, next year, by the time he's done with surgery, it's as durable. Once they reattach, I mean, the damn thing's as durable as it was before. There's no reason to believe that Baker Mayfield is going to be a lesser quarterback after surgery. The issue is Baker Mayfield enough quarterback to get us to where we need to go? And we don't really have an answer to that, except the only things that I hear that are negative about Baker Mayfield: he's too short. That's one thing. And he has no chemistry with OBJ. And I wish OBJ had never come here, because when quarterbacks like Eli Manning did have chemistry with him, he was the headline and he gave them nothing but headaches until they had to get rid of him. That's the fact about OBJ. He will break your heart. He will get serious for 1 year and have an outstanding year. And then once he's back in the saddle, he will be J.R. Smith. He will be that guy. That's the problem. I mean, that's what happens. Why do you think we got our hands on him? I mean, do you really think that you would trade a guy who had that skill set?
And if you were they're bringing in a new quarterback, they knew that. If they thought that Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be a transition or I can't even think of the word. You get what I'm saying. This incredible talent who's going to help their young quarterback, and they're going to find out what he is. They would have kept him. It doesn't matter what trade offers you would give him. You think right now that the Green Bay Packers, if you think they would trade Devontae Adams right now, you're crazy, because they know if they can keep him around, they have Jordan Love coming soon, and they know that Devontae Adams is a great player, and you can count on him. You can't count on Odell Beckham Jr. You never have been, and you probably never will be.
And we speculated, why were the Browns trying to sneak Brett Rippon off the practice squad of the Denver Broncos? Now you know why. Because the Browns, if they have to go to Case Keenum as a 33-year-old guy, if he gets hit, he can go down, and then you have nothing. You have to be able to have multiple quarterbacks, and Brett Rippon would serve as a guy on a practice squad who maybe had an understanding of the type of thing that Stefanski was doing. A very bright young man, from what I understand, may not be a great quarterback in the NFL. But, these are contingencies that ownership and front office and coaches look at. That was before they told the world, or the world found out, that Baker had this partial tear. So that's why we were looking at Brett Rippon. And I knew there was an answer as to why. We just have to wait to get it. So, and I've never seen a double punt either. I thought I was watching Australian rules football. That guy running and kicking at the same time, that was pretty crazy shit. And did you see how he picked up that spinning ball off the ground with one hand?
That was a great one-handed pickup. That's the best part of that whole play. The guy was amazing.
You know what? That guy would be wicked with a fucking dreidel.
Wow. What's wrong?
Jesus. I mean, I could not believe what he did.
Everybody.
Yeah. I can't believe what he did. It was like, whoa, he must have big fucking hands or something. Yeah. It's funny.
And lest we forget that Kyle is a dirty Jew.
Thank you. Thank you, Cartman. So this whole thing about the partial tear and what it means if he gets hit and it's a complete tear, he's gone. They got to try to keep him upright. They obviously are not totally confident with Case Keenum, and resting Baker Mayfield would be of no value because it's not going to get better. You play him, you ride the horse as long as you can ride him, and if he gets carried off the field and has to have the surgery sooner as opposed to later, so be it. That's the way it works in the league.
Recovery time after you get that surgery?
The common man, 9 to 12 months, 6 to 9 months is really depending. And, the average Joe, let's be honest about this. A lot of people never get surgery when they have partial tears because they're not going to use their arm in a way that will force them to have overhead motion and that kind of thing. You're talking about a professional athlete. He has to get it repaired. Now, but the one thing the professional athlete has is way better physical rehab and physical therapy than the average mortal guy like us, who would get the same injury.
I've fallen over on both shoulders, had similar shit, and just had to suck it up and live with it.
It's no difference than a rotator cuff. I mean, you got to start sleeping in a recliner. You can't lean on it in any way. You have to, and it isn't that it is. And I spoken to tennis players who've had the injury. My doubles partner in South Carolina had a car accident that he tore his rotator cuff. And he actually was a left-handed tennis player and switched to his right hand. And he ended up having problems in both rotator cuffs in the end. But he got the surgery, and what he said was, it isn't that it's a hard rehab, it's just a slow one. Because they don't want you to have any setbacks because the blood flow in the area is so restricted. So it's horribly monotonous, the therapy for it. It's repetitive, and it's slow moving. And if you try to do too much too soon, you will do damage to yourself. 6 to 9 months. So that's what it is.
And use it for emphasis.
Yeah, the thing that makes it difficult is that it never should have happened. You throw an interception, you don't go after the guy. Quarterback ain't a defensive player, and that was, again, something that Baker does have to get into his head. He does not play every position on the field. He's a specialist, and he does what he does, and they got to keep working on him because he has a big man on campus kind of approach to things. And, he's come a long way since he first got here. But without the offense being very precise and the reads being very direct, with pressure on him, his numbers drop precipitously. And it is up to Stefanski to prove to me that defenses in the league aren't catching up to this, because the last 3 games would indicate that they have.
Well, and people all week wanted, or not this week, but all last week and early this week before we found out about the injury, the debate, everybody's, what's the problem? Is it OBJ? Is it the line? Is it the injuries worse than we know? What if it's everything? What if it's Baker's dealing with an injury? His offensive line has not been good. He's mentally weak when it comes to OBJ. What if it's all that? What if it's the offensive play calling? It's like, I don't know why we have to pin the blame on one person or one situation. Why can't we account for the fact that it could be a bunch of different things? And that's the problem. Can't just blame one person. It's not all about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and it's way too much. And this is what the league does. And this has become the narrative. The way you shoot down the Browns as being a legitimate team is to shoot down their quarterback. Because that way you don't have to get into, and I'm going to use Bart Scott as the best example of that, former linebacker for the Ravens, who, I have such disrespect for, because every one of your takes can't be an anti-Browns take week after week after week. We know that you played against the team that used to be your team, and I understand that you are partially addled in your brain, Bart, and you can't stop playing the game even though you've retired. But making a statement on national television that Baker Mayfield is the most replaceable quarterback in the NFL, these are the things, absolutely idiotic. That is the dumbest thing since Reggie Rucker went on the air and said, I had lunch the other day with Sam Weich, and this is what he told me, and he'd never had lunch with Weich, and really disappeared from NBC thereafter. You got to be stupid. The takes like that ain't going to get you very far, especially when it's like beating a drum over and over again. The fact is, all quarterbacks end up having to be replaceable due to injury, and the Seahawks are finding that out right now. If your quarterback can't throw the football, you better have next man up. Everybody knows that. But who's the most replaceable quarterback in the NFL? How about Jacoby Brissett? I mean, I can name teams that are losing week after week after week, and it's like, Tyler Heineke. I can tell you all kinds of quarterbacks who lose week in, week out. They're totally replaceable. But Baker Mayfield is a top pick. It's a top pick, and he's played well, and he's made the Browns a talked about team. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick, you have Bernie Kosar coming into the league when he was a rookie, and they were running the ball with the 2 running backs with Mack and Biner, and it wasn't until Lindy Infante got there that, as Baker would say, that Bernie got dangerous. And that was a scheme that agreed with Kosar, and Kosar understood how to read all of it at the line of scrimmage. And it turned a guy who had a massive liability of being totally immobile and turned his strength, which was being an accurate thrower, into an ultimate strength on the field, and made the Browns a perennial playoff team for a number of years. They lost Lindy Infante, and the next thing you know, he regressed under Marty Schottenheimer. It isn't always the quarterback. The scheme plays a part in this, folks. Picks and predictions for week 5. By the way, I want to tell the sporting news that no, I don't think the Seahawks are going to beat the Rams. Just saying. I don't know where that's coming from. And the Packers beating the Bengals 28-25. You really think it's going to be that close? The game's in Cincinnati. It's
Yeah, actually, I do think that's going to be another coin flip game.
oh no. No, the Packers are going to beat them, and they're going to beat them like a drum. They're going to beat them like a
agree
drum.
with Brian. Am I saying that the Bengals have a chance to win this game?
Oh, everybody's now talking about the Bengals. Wait till the Bengals actually play a football team.
Yeah,
And
I agree with you, Moo. It's not that the Bengals aren't good. It's just
they've improved a hell of a lot.
I don't think they're the next level of good that people are placing them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to downgrade the Bengals. They have really gotten better, but no. They're going to beat Aaron Rodgers. You think Aaron Rodgers is going to be scared to death in the jungle? I don't think so.
Not,
No, but I don't. I'm not putting my money on that fucking Packer defense either.
And, I would say that the Sporting News is really on dope. They're basically saying that the Steelers are going to beat the Broncos, which is entirely possible. As long as Locke's the quarterback, they will. They can lose. That's. But you take a look at what they're picking for the Browns game, and it's like Browns 31, Chargers 24. Well, if we score 31 points, then I can guarantee you that the left arm isn't bothering Baker. Yeah. Okay. I really don't, I don't know. I'm not real high on that. They're saying the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills in Kansas City, and that could well happen. Yeah, it could. And, of course, the Ravens are going to march all over the Colts. Everybody agrees with that. Now we're over at Bleacher Report. I'm just telling you what the talking heads are saying. I do want to point out that they said the Seahawks would beat the Rams. So right off the bat, they're a big ofer. And no, I'm not talking about the Jets against the Falcons, because we're talking about the National Football League.
Yeah, that's
okay.
London. That's the London game. Can you imagine paying $100 quid to go see that? Jesus.
Now here's one: the Eagles and the Panthers, and it's like the Panthers are going to beat the Eagles because Jalen hurt. Everybody hurts sometimes. Yeah, I mean, but again, this is making Darnold look like Superman, and he's not. Eventually, you have to play somebody, is what it amounts to. Now, the Bleacher Report says
that could be an upset. I think the Eagles got some weapons. I'm not saying they will, but I won't.
Who's going to get the ball into their hands, though?
I don't think I wouldn't say Hurts is a good. I think he's serviceable, but I think he's the kind of guy, almost like in that Chiefs-Eagles game, where you can go back and forth, and he's kind of a scrappy player. I think against the Panthers, with McCaffrey out, and they traded for Gilmore, but he's not playing for a while. You have injuries. I just think that's a game where the Eagles could sneak one.
Yeah. Now Hurts tries harder. That we can say without. I'm sorry. Somebody had to say it, and it turned out to be me. The Titans at 2-2 are going to get fat at Jacksonville. Everybody, and by the way, the Bleacher Report says that the Packers will win 31-21 over the Bengals, which I think is more like what I would expect to see. And as far as the Broncos, the Steelers, they're saying the Steelers will beat the Broncos. The Broncos didn't impress anybody in their last game, and without their starting quarterback, not real good.
And the Broncos, I think the Steelers suck dick.
Well, I don't think they're very good either. But the real question is whether they can put enough points on the board, and whether Ben can make it through the game. I mean,
I think Pat Surtain has. I'm going to go real hot take here. I'm going to say Pat Surtain has 2 picks in this game.
He probably will, but Drew Lock, it can win nothing. I mean, Steelers are going to win that.
Yeah, and now Bleacher Report saying Chargers 22, Browns 21, flip a coin. And again, the Chargers playing on a short week. That's the advantage that's ours. Their home field advantage isn't the greatest, but they're healthier than we are. Okay, so flip the coin. NFL.com. What is this? Bart Scott is a cocksucker. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a note that I left for myself. I'm sorry. And I will continue to denigrate him until he's fired. There have to be people who are a little better than that. NFL.com is saying that the 27-23 Packers over Bengals, they're saying it's going to be a close game. Broncos over the Steelers 22-19, and that's that. And then what they're saying about the Browns, Chargers 27-23, and all of these are pretty much and Cleveland.com ran their little poll, and I think this is real homer results. 35% saying the Browns will win by 3 or less, 31% Browns by 7 to 10, and 20% say the Chargers by 7 to 10 points. Home fans, home cooking. I think that nationally more people believe that the Chargers are going to win than the Browns. So now it brings us to that ultimate moment in the program where our panel has to select. Did we lose one of our panel?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess Tony DeCat's gone. I mean, you didn't mention the big game, the Vikings versus the Lions. I mean, we're all on tenterhooks.
Well, it's good news for him because great opportunity to bounce back from a bad game, and the Lions have just been a big voodoo doll and pincushion for every team in the league.
Illegal in Texas. There's such an abortion. They'd be illegal in Texas. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and even Joe Shipley, who is a Ravens fan, he's weak sauce.
We got dickhead commentators in Cleveland too that we ate. So
that's right. I mean, it's. I hope you're right, Joe. That's a lot of points for the Browns to put up. It all depends on what's working and whether the passing game can get open with the running game really leading the way and making them change, because they were flying all over the field and they were really forcing the Raiders to pass the football, and it put Derek Carr in a very, very uncomfortable position. We'll start with Brian on this one. Brian, what's the final of the Browns game?
Unfortunately, I'm predicting an L. Chargers 23, Browns 17.
All right. And Bronk.
I mean, if you're a betting person, I would totally stay away from this game because I think it's completely unpredictable. But if you really have to make a prediction, I'm going to say that we're going to revert back to the Phil Dawson offense and win 19-16 with Chase McLaughlin having a massive game coming through for us. The defense is, the Chargers have to be worried about our defense, and we're worried about their front line. It's going to be a grind it out, don't fumble the ball, don't get strip sacked sort of game. It could go, don't bet on this game. Anything can happen. And as far as the Packers and Bengals, anything can happen in that game too. So stay away from both of those games.
All right. And Derek?
I'm going to say...
I hear that in your voice.
I'm going to say 24-17 Browns. I've kind of been back and forth on who I think is going to win. I don't feel good about this game. I won't be surprised if we drop this one. I'm just going to put my faith in our defense here that they're going to be able to maintain Herbert. I think, the Vikings last week, they were scoring pretty efficiently, and I think our defense did a great job. So, I think this is a game where turnovers are going to be huge in this game, regardless of who gets them. I think that could be the real story. I don't feel good, but I'll say 24-17 Browns and cross my fingers and hope that I'm right.
Yes, Bronk.
Yeah, what I want to hear is Brian's fantasy team because they're bound to do shit. So whoever he picks on his fantasy
Hey, mine
team,
too.
don't
Mine's
stay
terrible.
away from them. So let's hear it, Brian.
I'm
Who do you
going
got
with
this week?
I'm going with the mostly Cardinals this week.
Ooh.
You're dooming your own team.
I know.
Doom.
Yeah, 4-0's got to end, right?
I'm trying to give the Browns the best possibility to win. So.
Yeah, well, my feeling is it's going to be hard for the Browns to score more than 20 points in this football game. And I think that is and it's going to be hard to hold the Chargers under 20 points in this game. I'm going to be nice and say that the score will be 27-20 Chargers. And I want to see the Browns make a game of it. What I really want to see is an effort being made by the think tank, and that's Stefanski, about setting up an offense that will work for this version of Baker. Yeah, Bronk.
This is the best defense the Chargers have played this year. They have not played a defense as good as the Browns. They really haven't. They played the Cowboys. They played the Chiefs. They played the Raiders. They played the Washington football team. We are the best defense of that lot. So let's see if they try to get 20 points.
Well, I'll tell you this, Bronk, and I'm in a stage right now, and this is typical fandom. And I'll admit, I'm a Browns fan. I do this show because I'm a Browns fan. But how good are we, or how not good are we? And it goes and changes kind of week to week. And, how good is our defense? I want to believe.
I not mentioned Anthony Walker at all.
Anthony Walker was dead man walking when he played. He was dead man Walker when he the first 2 weeks when he was able to play. How good is the defense? How confident am I that it's as good as it's looked the last 2 weeks as opposed to the first 2 weeks? But this is going to be a greater test because that's right. He's going to be gone for a while, and we'll see what Greedy Williams can cook up back there. But the fact is, I want to believe as a fan that our defense really is trending in the right direction. But the thing is, it can go bad in a hurry on the road, especially if a quarterback has the kind of speed that the Chargers have. I mean, their receiving core, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is just, that's a 1-2 punch there of 306 and 294 passing yards after 4 games. I mean, you're looking at 2 wide receivers who are going on a 1,000-yard pace. These guys are hard to cover. And Jarrett Cook still has almost 200 yards in receptions and 23 targets and 16 total receptions. And then they throw to Eckler out of the backfield. So it would be one thing if the Chargers came in and one of their prolific wide receivers, Williams or Allen, was hurt. But that's not the case. They're coming in fully loaded. So
we're going to need a big game out of our 3 safeties.
Yeah.
Big game.
They're going to have to be in the right place at the right time. They're going to have to guess right. They're going to have to help when we are in press coverage. And it's all going to be incumbent on the front 4 to get a pass rush without having to commit to press coverage constantly. So
big JOK game too, I think, which I just got his jersey. So.
I like everything.
I don't want to jinx him and wear it Sunday, but
no, Brian can do that. But yeah. So that's it. It's 7:00, and you've heard what our wisdom is. We'll be watching the game just like you will. Sunday, 4:05 start. That means that the halftime show will be on sometime around 5:30ish, and the postgame show will be on somewhere around 7:00ish, and we'll have both of them for you on Sunday. Go Browns. I really want to see the fight in the dog here and see if we can come out and take it to this team and play really hard football. Because again, nobody picked the Chargers to be one of the best teams before the season began. And after the first 2 weeks, nobody was talking about them. Everybody's talking about them now because of the 2 successive wins against 2 teams that, quite honestly, have regressed from their first 2 weeks of the season. It's a very interesting scenario in football this year. But whatever happens, happens. We'll be there to talk about it at halftime and after the game. Thanks to you guys on the panel, Brian and Mr. Mooks, and Derek, thanks again. And, and I thank everybody for supporting the program. We've been having a lot of good viewership here, and our subscription numbers have gone up. And I like to think it's because there's a little bit of preparation put into this. I don't always tell people what they want to hear. I try to be straight about it, and I try to pick the games as best I can. I want the Browns to win every game. And they may win this one and surprise the heck out of me. I hope that's the case. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you Sunday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
See you on the replay, Key.
No.